Hello and good afternoon to all of you. On the demand of some of the students, I'm going to deal with Keats' concept of beauty. See, this is a very crucial question for you, not only for your external examinations, but for other competitive examinations also, right? So, uh, see, Keats can be called a worshipper of beauty, and his poetry can be called the testament of beauty. You know what nature is to William Wordsworth, beauty is to Keats. And if Wordsworth had love for nature in his blood, in the same way, Keats had love for beauty in his blood. And if to William Wordsworth, love for nature was the necessity of his being, in the same way, love for beauty was a necessity of being to John Keats. And if Wordsworth could not have survived without loving nature, in the same way, Keats also could not have survived without loving uh, beauty, right? So the fact is that Keats attached great value to beauty, as he himself admits. I am just quoting his original line. At one place, he himself says, uh, with a great poet, the sense of beauty overcomes every other consideration. I repeat, with a great poet, the sense of beauty overcomes every other consideration. If you try to have a look at a number of authors, particularly poets in the world history, you'll find that poets are lovers of beauty by nature, and at the same time, they may develop other interests also. Say, for example, Shakespeare was primarily interested in human drama and the play of human passion, right? And you know about Milton. Milton was interested in religion, as his mission of life was to justify the ways of God to man. And this is the basic theme in Paradise Lost. In the epic, he admits that he was trying to justify the ways of God to man, right? Then, if you talk about William Wordsworth, he was interested in dealing with nature that is outside the room. I mean, beautiful aspects of nature. Then, about Shelley, you can say that his interest was in social justice and free love. And I have told you a lot about his concept of, social justice and free love. But for Keats, a sense of beauty overcomes every other consideration. In fact, to Keats, beauty was religion. And it was not only a religion, but it was also the moving principle of his life and works. In his entire poetry, you can find beautiful description of beauty. So it was the moving principle of his life and his works, right? Sorry. In a letter written to his friend Bailey, Keats said, again I am quoting the original words of the letter. I quote, I am certain of nothing but of the holiness of heart's affection and the truth of imagination. I repeat, I am certain of nothing but of the holiness of heart's affection and the truth of imagination. In the same letter, he further states, I crave for a life of sensations rather than thoughts. I crave for a life of sensations rather than thoughts. Right? Now the question is how this beauty can be perceived. How this beauty can be perceived. Right? Keats says that this beauty can be perceived not through cold logic or rationality. Only sensations can lead us to beauty. I repeat again. Keats believes that this beauty can be perceived not through cold logic or rationality. Only sensations can lead us to beauty. So here he talks about two types of experiences. The first one is the affections of heart, and the other one is imagination. So affections of heart, they include instincts and impulses. And when you talk about imagination, imagination basically includes intuition. So the fact is that according to Keats, this beauty can be perceived through impulses and intuitions. It cannot be perceived through applying logic or rationality. Rather, it can be perceived only through impulses and intuitions. Right? Now, if you go through the odes of Keats and if you go through some other poems of Keats, you'll find that Keats takes infinite delight in sensuous description of beauty. But here let me remind you, he is not vulgar and his poetry does not degenerate into sensuality. So he gives sensuous description, but he is not vulgar and his poetry does not degenerate in sensuality. Right? Now you can find a number of examples of the sensuous description of beauty in his poetry. Let us talk about some examples. Try to have a look at his poem, The Eve of Saint Agnes. Now, this poem can be called the zenith of, sensuous beauty. I mean, you can find all the five senses working in this particular poem, right? Then you can take some examples from some odes which are prescribed in your syllabus. Let us take, one or two lines from to a nightingale or to a nightingale. I'm just quoting, one or two lines. Oh, for a draught of vintage. Oh, for a draught of vintage that has been cooled a long age in the deep earth. So, in the two lines, the sense of taste is working very, very clearly. Then, in the same ode, that is Ode to a Nightingale, let us consider, two more lines. I'm just reading them. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs. So in the two lines, the sense of smell is working and it is working very, very clearly. So the poet is not able to see what kind of flowers are growing around his feet, but with the help of his smell, he can recognize, these types of flowers or plants, right? So the sense of smell is working here, right? Then let us move to autumn. And here, the line is, where are the songs of spring? Oh, where are they? So here the sense of sound is working very, very clearly. And then if you read the very first stanza of this ode to autumn, you will find that all the five senses are working very clearly in the first stanza. Right? Now, you know, Keats loved the beauty of art and literature as he loved it in life and nature. Right? I repeat, Keats loved the beauty of art and literature as he loved it in life and nature. Actually, he finds this beauty in different aspects of nature, like Wordsworth. And you can say that he finds it in the humming of bees, he finds it in the sight of a flower, and he finds it in the glittering of the sun also. Right? Now, his basic principle of beauty is, he said, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Right? And if you remember, Keats wrote a number of letters to Bailey. He wrote a number of letters to his beloved Fanny Browning. And in one of his letters to Fanny, he wrote that he loved the principle of beauty in all things. Now, this is something you have to understand. He said that he loved the principle of beauty in all things. Means, all things mean, I mean, whether the things are good or they are bad. Right? Now try to understand. You know, this human world, it has two sides. One is the sunny side and the other is the dark side. Right? Now, the sunny side is replete with happiness and pleasure, and you know, on the other hand, this dark side, it is fraught with misery and evil and ugliness. Fine. Now, what is the question, or what are the questions? See, should an artist confine his vision only to the bright side? I repeat, should an artist confine his vision only to the bright side? I mean, should he write only about the bright side? Or should he also seek beauty in the darker side of human life? Means, should he also try to find beauty in the darker side of human life? Right? Other question, can we explore beauty in ugliness and pain? Now, what is the tendency with all the human beings? We all try to find beauty in beautiful aspects. Right? Now the question is, does this beauty reside in ugly aspects also? And can we explore this beauty in ugliness and pain? Does this beauty reside even in the seamy side of life, even in the dark side of life? Right. If yes, then how to achieve this beauty? Right. Actually, these questions tortured or agitated the mind of Keats quite for a long time. Fine. Then, in one more letter to Fanny Brawley, soon after he had suffered from hemorrhage, he wrote this letter. So, in this letter, he wrote to Fanny, I'm just quoting again from the original letter. He said, I have loved the principle of beauty in all things. I have loved the principle of beauty in all things. Now, this principle or idea of beauty in all things, it implies that Keats wanted to explore and reveal beauty in all things, good as well as bad. Right? Now, he was to seek and show beauty not only in the bright side of life but also in its dark aspects. So, he wanted to seek beauty in both, the dark side as well as the bright side. And his attempt of finding this beauty in the dark as well as the bright side, this tendency makes him a beauty mystic. I mean, he can be called a beauty mystic because he was trying to find beauty in all the things, whether the things are ugly or the things are good. Right? Further, Keats says that we can perceive beauty in every aspect of reality through disinterestedness. I mean, how can we perceive this beauty? He says that we can perceive this beauty in every aspect of reality through disinterestedness. Now, what is this disinterestedness? Actually, it implies uh, a kind of, it implies a completely unselfish love. It implies a kind of, completely unselfish love for one's fellow creatures, right? Moreover, we should develop what Keats calls negative capability. So how can we perceive this beauty? We can perceive this beauty only if we develop a kind of disinterestedness. And what is this disinterestedness? It implies, a completely unselfish love for everyone, for all the creatures. Right? So, uh, Keats says that we can develop what can be termed or what can be called negative capability. Means it implies the capacity to identify ourselves with others, to free ourselves from passion and prejudice, to acquire a detached vision. Getting my point? It implies the capacity to identify ourselves with others, to free ourselves from passion and prejudice, to acquire a detached vision. Means we have to cultivate a detached vision. Only then we can find beauty, this beauty in evil things as well as in good things. Right? I might have given you, so many examples. And one example I might have quoted from Hamlet. In Hamlet, Hamlet is the hero and Claudius is the villain, right? So we all feel that Hamlet is the hero and Claudius is the villain. Now, there may be other aspect also. And this other aspect is that Claudius may be the hero and Hamlet may be the villain. How? In order to find it out, you need to enter the mind of Claudius and then you have to look at the situations from the viewpoint of Claudius. So once you enter the mind of Claudius and you look at the situations and the surroundings from the viewpoint of Claudius, then you can assume or then you can come to a conclusion that whatever Claudius did was absolutely right. He committed only one mistake, and that was the mistake of murdering his brother. And after that, he tried to be a good king, he tried to be a good husband, and he tried to be a good, father. Fine. So, negative capability you just can say when we try to find beauty in both the aspects, and when we develop a kind of disinterestedness, or when we develop a kind of unselfish love for all the creatures, right? Now focus on his ode on Grecian urn, right? In that poem he says beauty is truth and truth is beauty, right? So this famous phrase, that is beauty is truth and truth beauty, it refers to this ideal vision. Fine. Actually, evil and misery are also essential parts of reality. But the beauty of the real is a beauty which resides in pain and ugliness, as in beauty itself. Right? So, Keats feels that when we love a fact, it becomes truth. And if a truth cannot be loved, it is not truth, but it is only a fact. Right? Basically, according to Keats, the task of an artist is not only to perceive the beauty, rather his task is to convey it. I repeat, he said that the task of an artist is not only to perceive the beauty, but to convey it. Right. Now there is one more question, and this question is that Keats was haunted by the question whether this beauty resides in, both the aspects of life, and how this beauty can be perceived, how this beauty can be achieved. So now the question is, could Keats attain his ideal beauty, or could Keats attain his idea of this beauty to find in both the aspects? Right. Actually, if you try to have a look at the life and career of Keats, you'll find that throughout his poetic career, Keats strives to attain this exacting idea to perceive and reveal the principle of beauty in all things, good and ill alike. Right? But the fact is that the ideal always eludes him. I mean, it was out of his reach, and he is never able to grasp it firmly, right? Moreover, he realizes the need to find beauty in human misery and evil, but whenever he tries to do so, he fumbles. So the fact is, he tries to find beauty in human misery and evil, but on the other hand, the reality is that whenever he tries to do so, he fumbles, right? And Broadly speaking, you can say that he can talk about leaving the realm of flora, but he does not know the way out. I mean, recurrently, he can talk about leaving the realm of flora. The problem is that, uh, he does not know the way out. Right? Then there are some more points that you have to take into consideration, and I'm just coming in the second clip. In the second clip, thank you. Hello and good afternoon to all of you. On the demand of some of the students,